is Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss our memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm Giff.
All right, we got a couple orders of business here. Pete, what are we doing first?
Are we opening a yearbook tonight?
We got to open the yearbook. It's
Yay!
1980.
Yes, I was waiting for you guys. Yeah, it was a little awkward silence there. I thought there was going to be more excitement. Yeah, we're opening a yearbook. There we go.
It's a new month. It's 1980. We're going back. This is as far back as we're probably going to go.
Correct.
So we're not going to have many memories
We don't hit
to share this time. How old were we in 1980?
I turned 4.
4 years old. So there's not a lot of real memories, but there's a lot of great stuff that was important to us, and we will cover it tonight. So much, in fact, we're going to try something new. We're going to split this episode into 2 parts, and it's going to come out on your normal day, and then probably 2 days later, the second half.
Wednesday. And
how exciting
back in with us.
Is
We're
that?
Have another
they don't have to wait a whole week for the next one to come out.
But it's really they'll still get their new episode next Monday, just like they normally would.
Yeah.
Correct.
Get
Pop Culture Yearbook.
We are going to start tonight with my choice. And we're going to start with this one because it's kind of different. So this is 1980. But tonight we're going to talk about The Jerk. And it's a great place to start back with your first year that we're going to start with because it stars my favorite guy ever and the most important guy to me in entertainment ever. And it's pretty high up in your lists, I think, too.
Oh, yeah.
But The Jerk, starring Steve Martin, actually came out on December 14th of 1979. So I'm breaking
we did go back into the 70s.
Yeah.
We just said we're not going to do that. And
it came out so late in the year that obviously it was still going strong in 1980. And so we're going to throw it in there. And since we're not going to be doing years before 1980, I thought it would be okay to bend the rules.
We'll bend the rules for one Mr. Steve Martin.
I hope that we don't get audited. I hope the auditors don't come after us for that.
So that's what we're going to do here. It's kind of a precursor to 1980, and then we're going to put out on Wednesday, we're going to put out our actual drafts from the year 1980 and all the stuff that took place at that time.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sound?
Fantastic.
All right. Fine.
So we are going to talk about The Jerk, and since it's my choice, I'll tell you kind of some things that I remember and why I picked it. Obviously, the main reason I picked it is Steve Martin. Mr. Steve Martin, to you. So he is basically, if I don't have heroes when it comes to entertainment, I learned my lesson with Kirby Puckett, but he would be the closest thing to the icon that I look up to, the person I would strive to be based on what I know of him. I'm not sure when I first saw this movie. I know I was pretty young. I would say, we already covered Vacation and 16 Candles, and I would say those are probably the first 2 movies that really grabbed me, but The Jerk probably came right after that in the next wave. The humor in this movie is a little different from those, especially for a kid. In those, there's a lot of dumb humor and family stuff too, and stuff you could even relate to as a kid. This one's a little different. You might not understand totally what they're trying to do all the time, but you're still laughing because it's just so dumb.
Silly.
So there are some jokes in here that might not make it today, in today's comic.
Oh, of course. All these movies have that.
Right.
But this is the movie that started my infatuation with Mr. Steve Martin, and it just grew from there. You could go back and listen to our episode on LA Story, which I consider probably my favorite movie of all time, and that's because it is his magnum opus, in my opinion. This movie did make $74 million, so big hit at the time. He was very big on the late night, Saturday Night Live, late night shows, comedian. Records. People used to get records of comedians back then. So this was kind of the thing that really launched him, I think, into film from there. We call it maybe some dumb humor, but it does have 83% critics and 84% positive reviews from audience on Rotten Tomatoes. It's very well thought of. And this was in my quotable movies that we did, about 3 weeks ago or so. Mm-hmm. And it's been a while since I've actually watched it, but after watching it, wow, it was a good choice. In fact, such a good choice that we are going to talk about the quotes specifically all in their own after we get through the movie.
Love it.
Should be amazing.
Anybody else want to share what you think of this movie or what you remember about it?
What I kept thinking watching the movie, and I know I've seen it many times before, but I probably haven't watched it in at least 30 years. And it's one of those that I had totally forgotten most of it. There are a few things that I do remember. But watching it this time around, I thought there were a lot of similarities to Dumb and Dumber. It's like this was a precursor, and I could see if the movie Dumb and Dumber could have been very easily been inspired by this movie, because it was that same kind of just idiot guy, only of course Dumb and Dumber had two.
Are you saying that shithead is the other guy then?
There you go.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. But it wasn't, this movie is not about two guys, right? And so, but again, I thought it obviously held up really, really well. I would just recant everything that you just said, Brad, because it's very quotable. Yeah, I thought it was great. A fun rewatch.
Yeah. I don't think recant was the right word, but we know what you meant.
What does recant mean?
Doesn't that mean to take away?
Take away.
Oh,
yep.
Oh, okay.
So if you're trying to back me up, it was kind of the opposite. But
fine, whatever, Mr. Dictionary.
Commiserate about it afterwards.
So I've watched this movie not that many times, but I do remember it, and just the funny humor in it. Pete, you talk about Dumb and Dumber. I would say it's a precursor to Forrest Gump in some ways. This guy who just kind of falls back, asswards into some money. Obviously he's, it's just his tale and how he goes about his life, and then
that happened in Dumb and Dumber too, though. They fell into money towards the end.
Well, yeah, they had to give it all back. You might want to hold on to that one.
But there was a good section of the movie where they were living in a wealthy lifestyle.
I do, though.
That's actually. That's actually one of the things that reminded me of Dumb and Dumber about this movie.
I think that comparison to Forrest Gump, while at first seems crazy, is very interesting. And it starts with him telling his story on the street.
Yep.
I mean, there is. It's interesting way to look at it. It's kind of like Dumb and Dumber and Forrest Gump had a baby.
Well, and he just kind of goes from thing to thing. He's working at a gas station, that he's with the circus, that he's made a bunch of money, and then it's just kind of a fun little story through and through. Both Southern boys, one from Alabama, one from Mississippi. So
wow.
Yeah,
I thought this out.
I did a little bit, not fully formed, but just a little bit. So yeah, and again with Steve Martin, it's going to be great. So yeah, that's what
I find. We haven't really talked about this in a while, or before we did this. To me, I just assume this movie is up there with one that we've all seen over and over and over. But it sounds like it's been a long time. And in Gifford's case, you haven't seen it as many times as I guess I would have assumed.
No, I would probably say maybe 5 or 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it'll be fun to hear what you thought then. Pete already said it held up, so that's good to hear.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cool, of course.
All right. So the way we're going to talk about this movie is, we've been writing our little synopses lately. I have one written. I'm going to break it into 5 sections, and I'm going to read a section, and then we're going to talk about that part of the movie to try to keep things on track. And we'll throw in a few, the famous quotes from the movie. But when we're all done, what we're actually going to do is draft our favorite quotes from this movie. So we'll hit on 15 of the very best memorable quotes when we get all the way through here. All right.
There'll be good, great ones left on the board, too.
And there will be. I have a list. I told you I have 23 ready to go, so we're not going to get them all. And actually, some of those I kind of combine that are I could break it into multiples, too. All right. Are you ready to talk about The Jerk?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. The Jerk, starring Steve Martin and directed by Carl Reiner, is the story of a 34-year-old white man who thinks he is the teenage son of a black family. And I wrote that because Steve Martin, he was 34 at the time, but he's playing a teenager. And I should read, hang on. He has no rhythm, but he doesn't realize that he doesn't fit in until his birthday when they give him his gifts. His mama decides now is the time to tell him that he was actually left on their doorstep and he isn't their natural son.
He's adopted.
Lying in
You
bed.
mean I'm going to stay this color? Anyway, sorry.
Can I
Go ahead. Yes, you may.
Lying in bed that night, he hears some big band music and realizes that he can tap along to the beat. This opens his eyes to a whole new world of possibilities, so he hitchhikes his way to St. Louis, and along the way he learns a few lessons and acquires a dog, Shithead. All right, so we're going to get through basically him getting the dog and the fire. We'll get to there.
Sure.
So the first thing I was going to say that I waited till I got done, but you brought up Forrest Gump and Dumb and Dumber. I will bring up Walk Hard again.
All right.
I love that he's, this fully formed adult man, but he's supposed to be playing like this kid, just like John C. Reilly did throughout early parts of Walk Hard. So it made me think of that. But it also being set on the farm and everything, it even kind of, they make you think of that. All right. What did you guys think of this part, or what are your notes on the first part of the movie?
Well, just the beginning, when he starts talking to the camera. Of course, right away we've got, he's breaking the fourth wall. And just the beginning where, he has, I was born a poor black child. I mean, that sets the tone right there.
Something's not quite adding up.
Yeah, this isn't quite right. So, yeah, it's outstanding. And the complete and utter lack of rhythm, watching him, I was trying to think, because he's a musician, he knows rhythm, he's very well versed. So to think of trying to get it wrong so perfectly, I thought was just genius. Just the clapping or the stomping or whatever it was.
Well, and he's famous for the way he moves and his dancing, and he can pull that off so well. But that whole scene is great. The song "Pick a Bale of Cotton," the way the rest of them are all just so on. It's it's great. But watching him sitting there, and that's what's fun.
Because he doesn't stick out enough, right? I mean, he's the one white guy in this whole household, but then they have to add to the fact that, he has absolutely zero rhythm.
Pete already brought up that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you're going to bring up the line that I rudely interrupted you with where he realizes, you mean I'm going to stay this color? And the whole.
But she says, "I'd love you if you were the color of a baboon's ass."
Right.
It's the whole scene, that whole section of the movie you just described is very comical, but at the same time, it's very touching as well, because you can see how good of a relationship he has with his family. He loves his family, doesn't care that, he doesn't even realize that he's different, and he's just a normal part of the family in his eyes. And they love him. And then as he's about to leave, it's emotional too, and the father is giving the fatherly advice, talking about the shit and shinola.
This is shit.
This is shinola. That's his whole life lesson right there.
Shit, shinola. Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whitey. Then, of course, the funny part of this is that he's leaving, and they all say their goodbyes, but he's going to hitchhike, and he's literally hitchhiking at the end of the driveway. And so later that night, they say, "How do you think he's doing?" And one of them just looks out the window and says, "How you doing out there, Maven?" And he's still right there.
And then he gets to ride all the way to the end of the fence.
Yeah. Where are you headed? To the end of that fence right there? Okay.
And he's just so appreciative of it, too, when he gets out.
And they can still, after he gets out, the family can still hear him out the window.
Well, so his issue there is he trusted Whitey.
Yeah, don't trust Whitey.
Well,
there's a hitchhiking montage where he does make his way eventually into the city. He finds this dog, and he thinks that the dog is the reason why he finds him is because it comes to his hotel room barking, and he thinks that he's warning them of a fire when, of course, it's just a dog barking. And they evacuate the whole hotel, and they find out there was no fire. And then this guy says, "Don't call that dog old lifesaver. Call him shithead." And therefore, he calls him shithead to the rest of the movie.
Okay. Yep. He's just he's such a sweet, kind soul. The elevator doesn't go all the way to the top, unfortunately.
Right.
All right. Shall we go on to part 2 of the movie? Now he's
Yes,
made
please.
his way into the city. Eventually, he
Well,
meets Jackie.
no. There is actually one thing I want to point
Okay.
out that I thought was really funny when he's still hitchhiking, and the guy pulls over and he goes, "St. Louis?" He goes, "No, Nathan Johnson."
That is funny. All right. Eventually, he meets Jackie Mason, who owns a gas station and gets a job. And I forget sometimes that Jackie Mason is hilarious in this movie because I associate him with Caddyshack 2.
I
Oh,
did.
yeah,
I was
that's
thinking the
bringing it
same thing, which is
So you
terrible.
think of him as just like the worst, but he's not. He's
not.
great here.
Yeah.
So he owns a gas station and he gives Navin a job. He gets his name in the phone book. He's nearly shot and he tries to stop a gang of thieves all while working here. When Stan Fox drops by, Navin's world begins to change. He invents a way to stop Stan's glasses from slipping, and Stan says that he sells crap like this all the time, and if it takes off, he'll split it with him 50-50. Stan then leaves and is not heard from for a while. While Navin is being shot at by this madman, Navin escapes in a car with no tires and ends up in a traveling carnival where he becomes a weight guesser. Mm-hmm. He's also taken in by a daredevil, Patty, who teaches him about his special purpose. During these events, Navin is always in touch with his family by mail, letting them know how he's doing. He even describes his new sex life to them. At the end of this letter, he says, P.S. Is Grandma still farting? All right, so we're going to talk now about the gas station, Jackie Mason, up through basically kind of the end of the Patty part, but into the carnival.
Here it gets back to the point, too, where he's so good-hearted and everything. He's a really good employee and enthusiastic about what he's doing. He's happy to have, $1.70 an hour?
$1.10 an hour.
$1.10 an hour.
Which I guess, back then, who knows? Maybe that's not even all that bad, but still, it sounds ridiculous.
I think it was still pretty bad. Even then, it was pretty
He's got free lodging, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, he got free lodging, right?
I could take out this wall. I could put the living space over here. It'll create a natural flow. This is even better.
Right?
Yeah. And so he was, this was his first time out into the real world, and he was loving it. And then, of course, he gets, like you said, he gets taken to the carnival, and he has all kinds of fun there. He meets Patty, who,
let's back up before we get to the carnival. So there's the famous scene where this guy, his name is Emmett Walsh, who I'm not sure what he's in, but the guy. I always used to think it was Ned Beatty, but it's not Ned Beatty.
Nope.
But he's shooting at him, and he's shooting all the oil cans, and he thinks he hates the cans and all that. But kind of the scene that I forgot about that is just amazing is his first day alone working at the gas station. This gang of supposed to be thugs rolls up in this car, and he's going to pump their gas.
Yes.
And he realizes that they stole this credit card. Mm-hmm. And, before that, so the quote is, it's Mrs. Nussbaum's credit card.
Yes.
I thought it was Newsguard, or maybe it was
Nussbaum. And then the one guy said, "Oh, I'm Mr. Nussbaum," and the other guy says, "Yeah, I'll vouch for him." And he says, "Okay, as long as we got a voucher." So in the midst of all this, he's stalling them. He's on the phone to the authorities to try to say he's got somebody there. He ends up tying the car to the church, and he's just so proud of him over this ploy that they're going to win an oven mitt, and he's keeping them around because he saw it in a movie. And of course, they eventually drive away. The church breaks in half, and the great little bit here is that there's a wedding going on, and the bride and groom are in opposite parts, and so they actually get torn apart as it's driving away. I just thought that whole scene where he's on his own and he thinks he is just killing it. That's just great acting, and it's just hilarious how he did the whole thing.
Right. Well, and he tells the guys.
Dumb and Dumber. Another comparison to Dumb and Dumber was when he outsmarted the bad guys because he saw something in a movie, which also happened in Dumb and Dumber.
Good callback.
Well, and what I love is, again, it's his first day by himself. These guys come up and he tells them, "Well, I can only get gas if you have a credit card." Because, we don't have cash or checks.
Cash.
And he's like, "Oh, there's no cash here." And he pulls out all this big wad. He goes, "Some people would kill you for a wad of cash like this." He's just cannot read the room at all. It's just so wonderful.
So they also have the famous line when the phone book shows up, and the new phone book's here. And I love how did you look at his address?
No,
Because he's living in the back room of the gas station. It's 253 and an eighth Elm Street. And he thinks things are going to start happening to him, and of course, the guy's trying to shoot him. But Stan Fox shows up and says, "Damn these glasses, son." "Yes, sir, I damn thee."
I damn thee.
And all this is going on, and the cans are being shot at, and so he runs away in this car with Shithead. And, Jackie Mason just kind of watching like, what the hell? But that's how he ends up at the carnival. So now, if you want to talk about the carnival.
By the way, I want to make one point about Jackie Mason's character, is that a part of you, when you're watching it, thinks that he's a hotshot asshole kind of guy. But he actually does treat Naven pretty well.
Oh, he's great.
He does trust him. And so... that was just one comment I wanted to make.
He likes to act like he's a hotshot, though, with his wife that he thinks is, But outside of that, yeah, he's a terrific boss.
Well, he is trusting Maven with his sex life, as he pointed out. So if he doesn't do well and the gas station goes under, this woman is going to leave him.
Okay, carnival. Anything there?
Well, this is, of course, the big swing here is. Him figuring out what his special purpose is for.
Mm-hmm. This is like a ride.
Right? And, I like her line, I'm going to guess your weight, just...
Well, you're so thorough.
I'll guess your height, or your weight, or your sex.
Right.
I love, too, because he also is really bad at the weight guessing as far as, like, trying to get people to come to him.
Right.
And then he learns that it's a profit deal.
Yeah, that dawns on him. All businesses are profit deals, but for him, he just can't quite get it figured out.
I think the great part here, too, it's all funny, him and Patty, it's all funny. Right. But he tells his family all the details.
Yes.
And that Patty promised me a blowjob.
He may be getting another job. He may be earning more money because Patty.
But it's funny with the family's reactions because there's like the one son who's always kind of got the smirk on his face, like he's laughing. But
he's the one that knows what's going on.
But the dad is like,
understands it.
That Patty must be a sweet girl. God bless her.
Right. Some of them are naive, but the one guy, just with that, like you said, that smirk and the look on his face.
Taj is his name.
He gets it. Yes.
Brother. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to get to Bernadette Peters in a second. Do you have anything else about Patty or anything before that?
It's just, she seems like a good time gal. She's
very
fan of tattoos on her butt.
She's very off-putting to me.
I bet more people see that than the phone book.
Right. That's right. That's a good one. See, and you're naming lines that I don't even have on my list for later.
Right.
It's just like
That's
every
beauty.
line. All right, so we're at the carnival now, and a little boy tries to take over the small train that Naven drives. So Naven has to try to save him, which leads to his meeting Marie, who is there. It's not his mom, but he's there with this boy. She's there with this boy. Naven, you can tell, is immediately smitten with her right away. Patty does not like this development, and she lets Naven know about it, but Marie ends up knocking her out.
Yeah.
Naven and Marie start dating, and they like each other, but she isn't sure if she can be with him since her mom always wanted her to be with a rich and powerful man. While Naven is bathing, she writes a letter to him and leaves, and so we'll just pause right there again.
Sure.
So I love when he steals the train, and then he hits his head. He says, "I'm okay, I was protected by the bill of my engineer Fred cap."
I love that the boy is just wearing a T-shirt that says "bullshit."
Bullshit. Yep.
This kid reminded me of Joe Dirt, like right off the bat. This is a young Joe Dirt.
So Bernadette Peters, by the way, I found out, I did not know this before, but they were apparently an item at the time that the filming began on this movie. They met in 1977, her and Steve Martin. Mm-hmm. They were both on the Kenny Rogers Celebrity Softball team. And then a few months later, he asked her out after they were on Hollywood Squares together.
Oh, excellent.
Continues a theme of him being with the women in his movies, like Victoria Tennant in L.A. Story. Who he met on All of Me.
There's a comment I have about L.A. Story, a comparison to that movie, which I guess I'll just bring it up now, how she just randomly pulls out the trumpet and starts playing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sort of like the
tuba.
The tuba and the girl in the woman in season 1 of
Only Murders in the Building.
Same thing. It's a random instrument that they love to play. It's a brass instrument. So,
I did like
I don't know
when
if
they
that was
were
a thing intentional or if it was just random.
I don't think so, but it's a good thing to notice.
I did like the scene on the beach where they're walking and he's playing the ukulele, showing his, other talent.
Oh, I love that scene. And I read that Steve Martin loves that scene and thinks it's great too, but apparently when it first filmed in the screening, like the audience didn't react to that the way that he wished, and so he's kind of let down by the reaction. But I think that scene and that little song they sing is it's so awesome.
It is. And then when she brings out the cornet, right? Is that what it is?
Yes, cornet.
At the end, which was great. But it's nice.
Is that a trombone? Never mind.
No. What I thought of was he's kept his sense of rhythm through this point. When he picked it up the first time,
he's obviously a new man.
Playing an instrument, he's still kept his rhythm. So that was fun.
So, and you can tell, he's with Patty, but he's obviously with her just because she's forcing him and because it's how he's learning. But even before him and Patty ever would break up, he's trying to ask out. What is her name? What's Bernadette Peters' name in this? Marie. He's trying to ask her out, and he can't. Maybe but she just thinks he's the cutest and gets it. And then she asks what his name is, and he's like, "I'll tell you my name tomorrow. It'll give us something interesting to talk about."
Now, it was difficult for him to tell her how he felt about her. I've got something difficult to say. I split the sheet I split, and on a slitted sheet I sit.
I've just never been able to do that before.
He's so relaxed with her.
Yeah. So they end up in the back of on a little date in the back of a truck, and then Patty shows up and basically is going to beat him up, but Marie knocks her out, and so they're off from there.
Well, and what I love is what puts Marie over the top maybe for dating Naven is when she was talking about her mother and how she went to cosmetology school, and Naven couldn't understand how she could deal with weightlessness. She went to that school. Her mom put her through school so she could marry somebody that that was going to be rich and powerful, basically somebody with a special purpose.
Right.
Well, Maven
got one of those.
Yeah, he's got a special purpose. So I just love how that got tied in immediately.
Yes. And the first time when you think they're going to kiss too, he leans in and he just licks her straight up the face. And I always thought her reaction is so great, and I read that is not scripted. That he just did that, and I feel like you can totally see it's a genuine smile by her, what? But she held it together, and it makes it even better. It's so funny.
Well, and if you remember earlier when you hear who's Patty and Naven talking, he asked her, "Are we ever going to kiss?" And that's the one thing they haven't been doing. So he doesn't have any experience in kissing. So I thought it was excellent the way he just licked her face.
So I love the slitted sheet thing that Pete read, but I also love his recap of how many days each day has felt like since he got to know her. And the way it's so underrated, that little part of this movie. He can just rattle that off so beautifully. And then Tuesday felt like 3 days, but then I didn't see you on Wednesday until later. So it was like a normal day, but then that night it was like 2 more days. And
I've got it written down. I can show you later. Here's the thing that's underrated. How does I watched Bernadette Peters do that whole scene. Her mouth didn't move. How do you not lose it while he's just rambling on and on? Because he's 2 inches from her face while he's doing this whole thing. I mean, I would have been dying laughing if I were her.
So while she writes that letter leaving him, he sings the Thermos song, which I always thought that was like one of my first memories of this movie back when I was a kid. Was I'm picking out a thermos for you. But then he reads the smudged letter because it got all wet, and he reads it as it's smudged. But he runs out to stop her, and he's using Shithead as a cover for his groin. Then he picks up another little dog.
He's standing outside. There's the next door neighbor, some old lady.
Yep.
And it's her dog. It was her dog, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
how do you not hose him down? She's holding a hose. If somebody goes to grab my dog to cover his ass, like you would do.
If you hold him down, then he's going to drop the dogs. You don't want that.
Well, dog's not above his head, you know. I don't know. I just thought it was great.
So this is another turning point, because this is where then he writes a letter to his parents again, tells them that he's moving to LA because he wants to try to win Marie back. He says, "You'd love her, Mom. She looks just like you, except she's white and blonde." Right. All right, so I'm going to go to the next part, unless you have a little more about the thermos song or the tub or anything.
No, I think
all right.
Got it.
So the madman from earlier who tried to shoot him, who was on just a rampage, he wanted to kill just a random any average Joe, reappears,
mumbling that as he's shooting too. Random every day, son of a bitch.
But he is now a private investigator, and he's there to deliver a letter. But he doesn't tell him that, so Naven freaks out and starts running, and we have this chase scene. And eventually he does catch him, and Naven reads the letter and learns that he's supposed to go meet again with Stan Fox, who, when he gets there, finds out that his invention, which is now called the OptiGrab, has taken off, and he's given a check for 250 big ones.
Big ones.
Which he doesn't look at the check, he just hears it from Stan. So when he goes to the bank, he thinks it's $250 and finds out it's $250,000.
Well, and he is so pressed for cash at this point that $250 is a ton of money to him.
I got one more paragraph here. Mm-hmm. Marie's mom calls Naven because she now learned that he has all this money because she read about it in the news, which reunites him with Marie. They end up buying a mansion and live the life of luxury, and the checks just keep on rolling in. So now the part where we get him reunited and he's all rich.
Okay. The one thing I didn't like about this part is that, I mean, even though she kind of alluded to it, her mom wanted her to marry somebody with money, like she really does kind of become a gold digger at this point.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like she loves him. She wanted to be with him all along.
I think that she leaned into it a little too hard.
But it was not about the money. It's about the stuff.
Yeah, she admits it. I'm gonna miss the stuff. She fell into that life and loved it. So did he.
Right.
I mean, look at him.
I love.
He's got a sports car, a suit, a pipe, and a long feather in his hat.
Giant feather. Yes, that's exactly what I was.
Well, the dog has the same hat. He's got a feather sticking out of his hat. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, awesome.
Remember how he's wanted a rotating bed and a plaster line? And remember how he's wanted a pool and a red billiard room
and S-shaped hedges and.
Well, I got that too. A little kind of out there scene from this is where the wife of Hobart gets the firing squad. But again, showing how their life has changed and it's just off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy comes in and they say, "There's a person here from a charity."
Gotcha.
He goes, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly accept that."
But he learns about cat juggling.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love the video of the cat juggling. It's actually Steve Martin and a mustache.
Right.
We learn he's not good with money, with all this money he has, because he donates just a whole bunch to the cat juggling charity.
Well,
I did write.
The credit here is Pig Eye Jackson is the cat juggler. That's the credit in the...
I did make a Dumb and Dumber connection here too. I just remembered the fight scene where they the people that are talking to him and they make like some negative comments about black people.
Yep.
And that they used the word back then. And he says, "Sir, you are talking to," and then this whole like kung fu fight scene, and it reminded me very much of the Jim Carrey fight scene in the restaurant.
Sure,
that's true. That's true.
I love how they go take some unnecessary lessons.
Right. And what was he? He was not
Put a balloon in your mouth.
Oh yeah, he was I thought he was like a matador, but he was a knife throwing instructor.
No, she took the other guy.
Yeah. So and then of course when she throws the knife, she hits him right in the crotch. It's just great.
Okay, so now we get to the final part. So you could see it coming. Unfortunately, Naven is publicly humiliated when the news comes out that the OptiGrab actually causes you to go cross-eyed after wearing it for too long. He becomes a bitter man, and he walks out on Marie. He becomes homeless, living on the street with nothing but a thermos that he traded everything that he owned for. Mm-hmm. But as he's sitting there telling us his story, Marie and Naven's family show up to get him, and we learn that his dad is actually a financial genius who was putting all the money that he'd been sent away and just building off of it. And everything works out. They're all reunited and happy together at the end, and they're back on the old ranch with a new house that's twice as big as the old one, but it's still just a wooden shack.
Still a shack.
All right, so in the news story where they blow it all up and he loses everything, that's Carl Reiner, of course, you know, right? That's doing that.
Of course.
I love how they show how it affected him. The director, the car is going through all this stuff and goes off the cliff, and then you hear, cut! Right? Because he was cross-eyed and had no sense.
2 people were killed.
Well, and what I love too is they're having a party at their house when this comes out, and like after people start leaving and they all take, some of them take their glasses off, and of course they're cross-eyed when, and they're all mad at him. It's like, well, you were cross-eyed when you showed up too. Like, I mean,
it just happened.
Strange, right?
But everybody just used him, and that's, they had what they wanted. He has to write a check to each person in the class action suit for $1.09. Right.
I was thinking about Seinfeld in that scene where his royalty checks
and he gets the claw hand.
Yeah, he gets the claw hand
and gets warped. This is the other scene I think I remembered the most as a kid, is when he walks out and he says, "I don't need anything except this. I need this ashtray, but nothing else. Well, I need this paddle game, the ashtray, the paddle game, the remote control, and this lamp. I don't need I need this chair."
The paddle game reminded me of Dumb and Dumber.
Paddle game.
When he picks up the issue of Long Island slut. Remember, he was walking down the street
and he's carrying a bunch of shit.
With a bunch
one of the things that he bought.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
And I will be remiss if I don't mention right now, because I know this. My sister listens to the show, and I think one of the things she is most proud of in her life is that apparently a long time ago she was at a party and she was kind of drunk, and as she was leaving the party, she reenacted this scene and was pulling all these things with her, and she just thinks it's the funniest thing ever, and so I want to give her that shout out.
That is pretty funny.
I always thought Danica was kind of a jerk, so that makes sense.
So he's walking down the street holding all this junk, and his pants are down around his ankles. But he walks by a lady with this nice thermos, which we know he likes from his song earlier, and he trades everything he owns for the thermos. So he ends up on the street with just that.
And then he gives it to Marie.
It's the first thing that he mentioned at the beginning when he starts to tell the story. It's all he has, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love to when the car pulls up and he says, "How did you find me?" And they go, "This is the first place we looked."
I don't know.
And of course, Naven just stinks to high heaven, and they can't even be with him. You better get in the back with the dog until we get you hosed down. But I love the ending too. They built a bigger house and they're playing Pick a Bale of Cotton again. But he's got rhythm now.
He's got rhythm.
He can dance with his family, and it's just everything worked out, and it's just wonderful.
It ties out perfectly.
God, I love this movie. It's so funny.
I want to go watch it again now.
Shit. Well, we can relive it right now as we go through the quotes. So do you guys have anything else about the movie in your notes?
I wrote down quote after quote after quote, so I was trying to save them for our draft here.
Okay, good.
Even though a lot of them were said, of course.
You've said a lot, but there's going to be new ones, and then you're going to have forgot about a bunch already, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one thing we didn't do is decide who was going to go first in this one, but it'll be me.
Oh, it'll be you, yep.
That's how we do this. So you two decide quick who's going to go second.
We can do it on air, odd or even. Okay, I'm going to do it.
You just take it, Pete. Go ahead. There's so many in this movie.
I'll go.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to start with, and I kept going back and forth. I'm like, oh, this is the famous quote. No, this is the famous quote. And I got probably 6 that I could start with, but I am going to go with, "He hates these cans."
Yes.
There's cans in there too. More cans.
Oh my god, that is awesome.
I don't think I've said there's a lot of quotes I've repeated ad nauseum in my life, but he hates these cans. It's just that's always going to be up there.
Mhm.
So that's my number one.
So it goes. I'm not going to pick this one, but it goes along with these cans are defective. It's
That's
part of
the other
same,
one.
Same scene.
Yeah,
I wrote that one down.
That's not
too.
my pick because I'm going to put that in the same.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's a few I have where you
same
could have 2 or 3 that. So we'll see how you can do whatever you want though with the rest.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with I was born a poor black child.
Excellent.
Right
Yep.
off the bat.
Right off the bat.
That's hard to pass up.
Okay.
That's excellent. I'm going with, you mean I'm going to stay this color?
Okay, so my number 2 is going to be, so I could do a long one or a short one. I'm going to go with I've got a special purpose. Because it comes up twice. That's what's great. It comes up with Patty,
Yep.
but it also helps him actually get to be with Marie for a little while before she walks out.
And I wrote down what's happening to my special purpose. So that kind of goes right in with yours.
Yep, it covered. Mine's going to be the new phone books are here. I'm somebody now.
Yes, I love that one so much.
I'm in print. That's the one I wrote down that goes along with that one.
Yeah.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I've never seen anybody get so excited over nothing.
I'm going with Don't Trust Whitey.
Are you taking the whole thing? Lord loves a working man, shit and shinola, don't trust Whitey?
That would be in with them, but yeah, I mean, that's the one I love is Don't Trust Whitey.
Okay. All right, well, now I'm going to go with I don't need anything except this. The ashtray, the paddle game, remote control, and this lamp. I don't need one other. I need this.
I love how he just turns on a dime. That's the one I wrote down is the one at the end. I don't need it. I need this.
I just love that so much.
All right, my next pick is one that I mentioned earlier in the episode. First, I get my name in a phone book, and now I'm on your ass. You know, I bet more people see that than the phone book. Which is different. It's a whole different part of the movie than my name's in a phone book.
Oh, let me see here. I've got, God, you guys have hit so many of them already. I'm going to go with, so you talked about when he was saying Marie's laying next to him, sleeping, and he's talking to her, and he has the line, "You look so beautiful and peaceful. You almost look dead."
The way he delivers it, because it's just that doesn't seem that funny, but it is.
He says it so innocently and sweet, you know? I mean, it's just too good.
Okay, I'm going to go with my friend Patty promised me a blowjob, which also includes that Patty must be a sweet girl. God bless her.
All right. This is our fourth pick. Okay.
Yep, fourth pick.
St. Louis? No, Nathan Johnson.
I'm gonna go with I'm picking out a thermos for you.
Oh,
just
nice.
the song. It's
That's
just
a
such
nice
a
one.
sweet,
That's a nice one.
just a sweet song.
Oh,
Not an
man. So
ordinary
I've gotta-
thermos for you.
I got to pick my last one already. Yeah, I got so many to choose from, but I love, because it's one I kind of forgot about, but seeing it, the movie again, as long as we got a voucher. I mean, it's so great.
All right. Mine is one that we discussed the scene, but didn't talk about this line. I can't make out the license number, but he's pulling a small church.
So if you see anybody pulling a small church, chances are that's probably it.
So I'm going back to the beginning of the movie when they're celebrating Naven's birthday, and they're giving him, presents, and his brother Taj looks at him, pulls this bottle out of his vest and goes, "We got you a whole half bottle of lilac Vagital. It's from both of us."
Run, both of us. Oh God!
A whole half bottle.
So I think all the other ones that I listed we did say during the thing.
I got a couple.
But like I just want to repeat some of the like minor ones that you could forget. Yes, sir. I damn thee. What else you got, Gif?
Well, this goes along with the I'm gonna stay this color because Mama says, Nathan, you're not our natural born child. And he comes back with, I'm not? Just the incredulous sound in his voice is just great. And then he comes back with, you mean I'm gonna stay this color? I got when they were talking about during the fire or the non-fire, and he's running through the hotel, praising this dog. This dog is saving everybody's life. He's some dog. You're gonna get your name in the paper. You're gonna, there's gonna be all this stuff he's going on.
I'm gonna call you old lifesaver.
Go ahead, Pete.
This is the best pizza in a cup ever.
Oh yeah, the pizza in the cup.
He put that other guy out of business.
In a cup, which sounds fantastic, by the way. Yeah. This is not the original pizza in a cup. For $1, I guess your weight, your height, or your sex.
Yep.
I've heard of this cat juggling. I've
heard of this.
The whole thing. There's a fire, where he's the exchange with a dog. And
then he starts barking at the people.
Right.
He's running down the hall barking.
I got one when he was writing back to his folks about finding the job in the gas station. He's talking about his boss, and he goes, he's teaching me how to be impatient.
Oh, that was good.
Brad mentioned when, he thought he was getting his room at the gas station, and they're in the bathroom portion. And he's so excited. He's so excited about what he can do with this bathroom. And he goes to open the stall. He goes, and this must be the kitchen. No.
We could go on and on.
I think
Anybody else?
Where's the one? I had one more in here. Where the heck was it? Oh, so it's the part where he ends up in, is it Patty? That's the biker lady.
Yeah.
And he comes into her trailer, and he says something about, like, I've only spent a little bit of time with you, but I can tell you're a very unclean person.
Genuinely dirty person.
And he goes, he's holding her helmet, and he goes, what do you do with this? And he gives it to her, and she throws it on the bed. He goes, you keep it there. Yeah, that's all I got.
Anybody else have anything to add?
$1.09.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Go ahead, Pete. What were you going to ask?
I was just going to say, you know who's somebody now?
I think Preacher Row is somebody now.
Preacher Row.
All right, we'll come out with part 2 and see you soon, guys.
Excellent. Thanks for listening.
That was great. I loved it.
P.S. Is Grandma still farting?
No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. Something steps and it will be my last. Next time, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.